just a short 15-minute talk by Yosef. Yosef is actually the founder of EHF.
Recording in progress.
He's the founder and creator of EHF, and basically, as he'll probably tell you about, he got kicked out of the U.S. after getting his degree from Harvard. That's kind of how the U.S. works. And he was like, I got to New Zealand and was like, I should not get kicked out of this country. How do I do that? And he figured out a visa program that he himself could have used to come here and to stay. And yeah, I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
I'll keep it brief. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yosef, and as Mark mentioned, I'm one of the co-founders of the Edmund Hillary Fellowship. How many here are EHF fellows? Okay, so we'll keep seeing more fellows in many rooms over the next few months and years as the borders open up. I'll give you a brief history of how this program was started. For some of you who don't know, a number of migrants and myself decided to move to New Zealand because it's an incredible place, as you all probably know, from a place to live and have family and raise kids and be safe. I mean, what New Zealanders have created here is an extremely special place that has taken decades and centuries to build, and it could also disappear in a few years' time, so we have something really unique to preserve. But the beauty here is also this incredible talent and incredible know-how and building something from the ground up. And that's been very, very inspiring as someone, I grew up in East Africa, lived in the US, moved around the world, and landing here, you see that unique characteristic and ingredient, and also doing things in a very humble way, which is very inspiring, especially coming from San Francisco, where humility is not a common trait. So I guess basically the foundation of the Edmund Hillary Fellowship and the Global Impact Visa actually started as an invitation from government back in 2015, basically saying, we need to build a stronger talent base in New Zealand. We need entrepreneurial talent. It's not that we don't have it here, it's just something that you can never have enough. And looking at existing visa pathways, they were built more from the government bureaucracy side as opposed to being built from the customer lens. And as an Ethiopian, traveling around the world with an Ethiopian passport, I can show you so many immigration scars that I have. And myself, many people who governments say, we want to have you here, but on the other side, let us show you the incredible journey that we went through to build a base here, which was actually a loss for New Zealand. If someone is playing a long game that is actually disconnected from how you want that person to contribute, it's a loss for New Zealand, it's a loss for the person. And so it was an incredible invitation to say, if we could build something actually entrepreneurial, what would that look like? And Nigel Bickle, who was the CEO of the Immigration Department, Minister Joyce, and a bunch of leaders at that point basically say, let's do something that's market-led, meaning starting from the customer, the audience, as opposed to build something primarily for the lowest common denominator within an immigration bureaucracy. And from that first conversation, it literally took 12 months to get the idea circulated around from the startup community and ecosystem to get it into policy, and 6 months to launch it. And we launched it as a nonprofit because this is serving as a benefit for New Zealand, it's not benefit for any individual. And in some ways, we had to design it to think much longer term than any specific government would. And that's always a challenge. I mean, if you know building something that actually has long-term lens in mind. And what we found was really shocking, basically, how New Zealand was loved and appreciated from all over the world. And EHF attracted 532 fellows. 80% are international, 20% New Zealanders. And the reason why we built that combination is because getting great builders, founders to have direct access to the global network, and also helping our global fellows land and get connected to the New Zealand ecosystem was a critical part of the design. And now looking back and looking at the type of talent that we have, if New Zealand captures, a small part of the value that, the 532 fellows can actually contribute, I'm pretty convinced it can add at least a few points to New Zealand GDP because of the level of experience, the talent, the connections, the resources that people are bringing here. And so I really hope that we can collectively leverage this networking community. But one thing I advise all of us to do is not to approach it from a transactional lens. So what can I get from you right now? Because we recruited future New Zealanders. So it's not an in and out initiative. It is basically people who will have a long-term base here, who will be neighbors, who will be residents, who will be people raising their children, or participating in the local community. So it's 500 people who are invested in New Zealand's long-term success. And I think that's a really unique blessing for New Zealand, and it's a blessing for the people who are coming. And it's been amazing to see NZVC launching in the way that it has, because a big part of the thesis is not just bring talent, but increasing the level of connectivity New Zealand can have with the rest of the world. And we use connectivity as a buzzword, but ultimately there's sort of different tiers of connections you can have with resources and people, and that's how the business world works, is who you really know. And our fellows are heavily connected all over the world, and I think seeing NZVC building a venture capital arm, first and foremost built and run by operators, which is an incredible feat to have, because the one thing you want as a founder is people around you who are founders, who have not just the empathy, but an ability to help you navigate and walk through the journey. And the second part is having a global access and connectivity across different geographies, so that you can access more capital. Anything that we build in New Zealand, you hit a ceiling quite fast with 5 million people, right? So you got to think outside of the world. So that's an incredible lens, and also creating an infrastructure for so many of our fellows to plug in and support the local founders. So I'm really hopeful and optimistic, and I think there are several other funds that were started by fellows as well, which is amazing. I think from a founder lens, to always have more options is good for you, because it puts all VCs on their toes. They're actually adding value, creating impact in your journey. So yeah, well done, team. I'll just open it up if anyone has questions. I'm no longer CEO of EHF. Rosalie's running it, but happy to answer any questions that you have.
Did you end up moving to New Zealand? What part?
Sorry?
What part of New Zealand did you end up moving to?
What part of New Zealand are
Yeah.
people moving to?
Did
You.
Like what area?
Oh,
What
yeah,
area
end
did
up
you
moving
move
to?
Yeah.
Just 40 minutes north of here. So
Oh, really?
Part of Wellington, yeah, but surrounded by trees.